So hey anime fans. The series name is What If Naruto Got Harem with Ninja Turtles. So let's start the series. The father of Naruto has blonde hair that is spiky and blue eyes. Both sides of Naruto father's face were framed by jaw-length bangs. He is dressed in hakama, a white kikogi, and a basic indigo blue haori. The right pack, sleeves, and back of his haori are all embellished with several symbols that are 4 squares arranged in a diamond pattern. His right wrist is also adorned with a teal beaded bracelet. Next to him is Naruto's mother, who has red hair, fair skin, violet eyes, and a slim but feminine figure. With shoulder-length hair that framed her face on both sides and a black clip that parted her hair to the left, it reached her ankles. Is dressed in a classic green Japanese kimono. Naruto's father spit out blood from his mouth, not even caring that his teeth are stained with his own blood, and clicked his tongue in frustration, not caring that blood was dripping from the side of his face, as he glared daggers at the foot ninjas with his piercing blue eyes. And become a mindless slave like you idiots tsk, I rather take my chances. With a great deal of conviction, Naruto's mother glares at the foot soldiers, saying, Naruto's father is right yakno. We actually enjoy the freedom we have while you might like being a pawn to be dispossessed of not us. The only people who surveil Shredder are an idiot who has nothing to live for, and Naruto's father, and I have too much to live for databing. The father of Naruto had just tightened his hold on the katana. Men responded, Naruto's mother is right, a life under slavery is no life. He then grinned brightly at Naruto's mother. Tatsu growled at the couple, saying, I am no slave. I follow my master on my own will. Naruto's mother looked at each of the 4-foot soldiers and said, then you and your 4 friends are fools. Shredder does not care for you. This isn't good, Naruto's father, and I am losing too much blood, but we can't let these guys find out about Menma and Naruto. Who knows what they'll do if they discover we have children. The Naruto's mother sighed in her head, but she was thankful that her kids were inside their home. Unfortunately, however, a 5-year-old Naruto and Menma were not inside the house. Rather, they were hiding outside behind a rock. The only thing the 2 siblings could do was watch their parents battle the foot soldiers. After glancing at the red and blonde, Tatsu snarls at them and pulls out his katana. I grow tired of your disrespect against our master. Tatsu then points his sword at the father of the NRD, saying in a deadly tone, I will end your life Namikaze. Tatsu then turns to the mother of the NRD. Elite, kill that swine. Tatsu orders the 4 elite foot soldiers, who nod and narrow their red eyes at both the mother and the father. 2 elite foot soldiers charge at the mother, while the other 2 charge at the father. Knowing that this would be their last chance to see their children, the Naruto mother and father fled to their enemies with the intention of confronting them head-on. Tatsu and Naruto's father battle blows, refusing to give up. The blonde immediately falls to the ground as Naruto's father narrows his eyes upon spotting the foot soldier behind him. Both weapons are slashed downward by Tatsu and the foot soldier. When Naruto's father lifts his katana above the 2 cuts, the second foot soldier narrows his gaze at him and approaches him, ready to stab him in the heart. Damn you bastard, you'll fucking pay. Yelled the elephant ninja, who has been temporarily blinded by Naruto's father, but does not stop the ninja from stabbing Naruto's father, after he spit in the ninja's eyes while acting extremely quickly. The blonde man grunts in agony as blood pours from his mouth, and despite the fact that he is blind, the elite ninja still manage to stab Naruto's father. Naruto looks down at the weapon that pierced his chest and exclaims, with you dead we could have fun with your wife. The foot soldier gloated, loving the pain on his face. With the ferocity of a lunatic, Naruto's father roars and breaks the 3-way fight between him, Tatsu, and the other top shinobi, causing the 2 to stagger back. The double-edged blade is then seized by Naruto's father, who takes it from his chest. He snatches the blade from the elite soldier with the blade of his chest. Then he stabbed the ninja in the chest with both weapons. The foot ninja continues to fight despite having 2 lethal weapons shoved into him. He then uses a kunai to strike Naruto's father in the ribcage, preventing the guy from hearing his cries of agony. Instead, he bites the back of his lip. Despite the blood and burned spit on his face, Naruto's father glares at the man with daggers and snarls, I won't let anyone harm my family, not until my last breath. He then takes both weapons from the dead ninja, and removes the kunai from his ribs. Tatsu approaches Naruto's father from behind and puts his own katana through his back, shocking him. After Naruto's father spat blood and collapsed to his knees, Tatsu turned to face the elite foot soldier, and gave him a lethal command to finish him. When Naruto's father chops the ninja's hand off, the elite foot soldier shakes his head and raises his sword, preparing to remove his head. The ninja then screams in agony. I told you I won't stop until my very last breath. Screamed Naruto's father, struggling to get off the hard ground while glaring at the ninja with his piercing blue eyes. Using a kunai, the elite foot soldier charges at Naruto's father. As the 2 run past each other, the elite foot soldier's torso is severed from his body, but Naruto's father is still standing after taking a blow from the elite foot soldier. He looks down and notices a large gash across his stomach before collapsing to his knees and panting. If it's any comfort, not many have faced me or 2 elite foot soldiers, and lasted as long as you did. You truly are a skilled warrior, Naruto's father Namikaze, Tatsu says with a sadistic smile. You fought well Namikaze, but it seems like all that adrenaline had finally run out. Tatsu then picks up one of the double-sided blades and chops off Naruto's father's head. The only thing that Naruto and Menma could do was watch in terror as their father was decapitated in front of them. Dad. Menma stammered, tears streaming down his cheeks. As Naruto saw his father's body fall to the ground, he stammered, "Oh go God." Tatsu then approaches his fellow foot soldiers engaged in combat with Naruto's mother. The Naruto mother gracefully avoids the two foot soldiers' slashes by performing a spinning revolving jump. She then backflips away from the ninja, but not before kicking the man in the chin, which sends him flying. When Naruto's mother leaps into the air and stabs the ninja in the head with her spear, killing him, she notices something and looks up to see her father's headless body. Her eyes dart around in fear, finding her husband's decapitated head with his blue eyes open. The mother of Naruto emerges from the lifeless ninja and looks on in horror. With tears streaming down her cheeks, Naruto's mother cried out in agony, "Oh God, oh God. Mb Naruto, Fatero." Stealthily stalking behind the Raidid, the elite foot soldier raises his weapon and brings it down, severing Naruto's mother's arm. The mother of Naruto screamed in agony. As her entire left arm is severed, Naruto's mother looks down in terror. After Naruto's mother collapses to the ground, Tatsu approaches her with a chilly demeanor, stabs her in the heart, brings out the sword, and says, "We're leaving." The foot soldier shakes his head, drops a smoke pellet, and disappears forever. When he left, however, both Naruto and Menma ran to their mother, both of their faces dripping. The mother looks shocked as her two sons bury their red and blonde hair into her bleeding chest. "Naruto, Menma, what are you doing here?" the mother asks, but neither of them answers. They keep crying into her chest. The mother then puts her soul arm around her sons. "Naruto, Menma, were the two of you watching?" she asks, coughing up blood, smears hair. Menma and Naruto bow their heads and gaze up at their brother with bloodshot eyes. "Why you're dying, mama?" Naruto whispered in a terrified voice. With a sorrowful nod, Naruto's mother remarked, "Yeah, I am Tatsu had me in my heart, and I am bleeding death." "No, we need you, mommy. Please don't go." Menma screamed in fear as he shook his head negatively. Then a genuine grin appears on her face. "Naruto, Menma, my wonderful sons, you don't need to worry, you still have Naruto friend, Yuhiko, Konan, and Karen. My boys, I don't have that much time, so please listen to me. I know the road ahead of you is going to be hard, but just remember your father and I will always watch over you two, but you two will always have each other. But please don't fight with each you two are family, and do you know what that means?" replied Naruto's mother. Looking at their mother with sorrow, Naruto and Menma responded, "Yeah, ma'am, it means family sticks together." His eyes were bloodshot. Despite the fact that her mouth is blood-stained, Naruto's mother grins at him while running her thin fingers through her son's blonde hair. "That's right, I know you two are still young, but please a girl who can accept you for you. Also remember to make friends, who knows, maybe you'll have mama's luck and make a lot of friend. Keep your training, I know the both of you hate those means, so I'll tell you that Asian man is Tatsu, and those four men are elite ninjas. They follow the Shredder who leads a ninja gang that goes by the name of the Foot Clan. There's so much I wanted to do, watch you graduate, meet your first girlfriend, watch you get married. Naruto, Menma, I just want you two to know, no matter what path you choose your father, and I will proud of, also watch out for Yuhiko, he's a real pervert. There's so much I want to do with you two, but I remember this, I will always love." Followed Naruto's mother as she died, your body becomes still. Both Naruto and Menma started shaking their mother, saying, Mama, wake up, please wake up mama." In anguish as they gazed at their deceased mother, who was still smiling long after she had passed away. "Mommy, please sniffle, don't do sniffle, we're SCSC scared sniffle, please don't leave us alone mommy," cried Menma in agony as the siblings started to cry and sniffle in the hopes that their mother would reassure them that everything would be alright. Soon after, all the pent-up pain from witnessing their parents being killed in front of them was released, and the two screamed to the sky in pain, fear, and agony. As it starts to rain, even the sky worries about the two, but they don't care because they are orphans today. Then, with new tears in his eyes, Naruto stands up. "Sniffle and Naruto, are you sniffle going?" Menma asked and turned to face his brother. With a grimace of sorrow, Naruto pulls up his father's head and places it on his chest, after whipping his nose from the snot and saying, "To GG get dad." After struggling to get his father's body to his brother and deceased mother, Naruto eventually managed to carry his father's head and body over, before collapsing to the ground while sobbing at the loss of his parents. Hours later, Naruto and Menma are still seen clutching their deceased parents, and a shocked man, Naruto's friend Uzumaki, who is also their cousin, says, "Oh my god." Yuhiko and Konan are beside him. In addition to having straight red hair and light white complexion, Naruto's companion also has purple eyes and long bangs that conceal his left eye. He's wearing a blue leisure suit, blue formal pants, a yellow shirt, and boots that look like Lupin 3. Yuhiko's eyes are brown, his skin is fair, his hair is spiky, and reaches the end of his neck. He has numerous piercings on his ears, including ones from snake bites. He is shown wearing a kimono shirt, black-fitting jeans, a leather jacket over the kimono, and shoes that resemble kimono boots. Konan was a quite tall woman with elaborate piercing, amber eyes with lavender eyeshadow, and short, straight blue hair. At the lower corner of Konan's eyes, a diagonal line represents her eyelashes. A traditional woman's kimono is on Konan. She wore a long, perhaps Mobakama skirt over this. Straw sandals and traditional women's arm and leg protection completed her ensemble. The trio swiftly approaches the twin, Konan, who becomes dejected and taps Naruto and Menma on the shoulder. The two turn to face Konan, their eyes bloodshot red, and their faces smeared with tears and dry blood. Naruto said, "Konan-oba, auntie." "Yeah, that's right, it's me, Naruto friend and Yahiko Oji, uncle," Konan said calmly as she nodded her head at the two, although she was truly concerned about them. Menma exclaimed, "I hate them," in a tone that wasn't appropriate for a child. When the two Naruto friends knelt down to the siblings, the three adults arched an eyebrow at them and said, "Hey do. I want to call Shredder," screamed Naruto as he and Menma turned to frown at his companion. Menma becomes enraged and exclaims, "I want the Shredder dead," with nothing but hatred in her eyes. Years later, time jumps. Over the past 11 years, a lot has changed. Although Naruto and Menma had vowed to exact revenge on the Shredder, they chose to target Tatsu rather than the Shredder's header. After that, Naruto and Menma advanced their training by having Konan, a Naruto buddy, and Yahiko instruct the two siblings. Originally, the three adults desired a regular existence, but the twins had different goals. They wanted to become shinobi, kill the Shredder, and destroy the Foot Clan. Yahiko and his companion Konan had spent the remaining years teaching him the skills of being a shinobi, a true assassin ninja, since the two do not intend to ever let go of their enmity until both Shredder and the Foot are dead. However, both Naruto and Menma are now 16 years old, fully trained shinobi, and prepared for their vengeance. Menma's attire includes a grey calver jacket, black clothes, metal gloves and arm guards, ninja shoes, a white mask with slits, 3 ninja pouches on the back waist, and a purple hooded cloak. Beneath the mask, Menma's red hair is styled in an Ivy League cut, sometimes known as the Princeton haircut. His eyes are vivid blue, just like his father's, and he has 6 birthmarks on his face that resemble whiskers or scars. Menma is also concerned about the Kusarigama he chose as his weapon. The person next to Menma is Naruto, who is similarly dressed in black, a grey calvert jacket, metal gloves and arm guards, ninja sandals, a white mask with slits, 3 ninja bags on their waist, and a purple hooded cloak. He has blonde hair that is spiky and has 3 bands on the right side of his face. His eyes are the same color as his mother's, and he shares his brother's birthmarks on his narrow jawline. A double-bladed ninja sword staff spear is spotted in Naruto's possession. An. Naruto appears to be a brave ninja. The twins are shown kneeling in front of Konan, who is grinning broadly. She wishes the two had not chosen such a solitary route, but she understood that this was their choice. Naruto, Menma, you two have excelled in these past years, no matter what the task was, or how difficult it was, the two of you had passed it. I know both Naruto father and Naruto mother are looking down in joy, as they watch their sons be put the most grueling test a ninja could possibly go through. Konan said with a confident voice. With a smile, Naruto and Menma nod their heads to Konan and say, "Thanks Konan-oba. Besides, we couldn't do it without you. After all, you are a great sensei, Konan-oba." Menma smiles at Konan, flashing his sharp teeth. "Are you too sure? You want to leave to Japan and venture to New York?" Yahiko asks the twins as he approaches them with a sad expression. Both Naruto and Menma look at Konan in concern. The two got up from their kneeling position and took off their masks, as the brunette nodded her head. Yahiko is still in awe of their growth throughout the years. "Yahiko Oji, you know we are leaving Japan. We plan to leave Japan to face Shredder since the day we lost our parents," Naruto remarked, and Menma adopted a stern and neutral demeanor. Then, with a hesitant smile, Yahiko scratches the back of his head and asks, "Yeah, I know, just be safe, alright?" Then, Naruto lets a broad smile spread across his face and says, "Don't worry Yahiko Oji, we will. We won't turn to a pervert like you." Then, Yahiko falls to the ground, causing Konan to laugh and his friend behind him to laugh as well. With fire in his eyes, Yahiko hurried to his feet and exclaimed, "I am not a pervert, I am a super pervert," while striking an odd position that might be considered a rip-off of the Power Rangers. When the Orange Net Man replied, "And you say it likes it's a good thing." With a deadpan smile, everyone started to perspire. "Fuck you Naruto friend," shouted Yahiko, glaring back at the friend. Menma simply gives him a deadpan look and says, "Yahiko Oji, you're an idiot." Yahiko then falls to the ground, a cloud of rain hovering over him, and says, "Well, we better go." They then bid each other farewell and gathered their many bags, which contained cash, weapons, and clothing. Their cousin Karen invented a device that will overwrite the airport sensors, so they won't have to worry about someone inspecting their baggage like they would normally. Today marks the completion of all of their preparation, but it's time for Menma and Naruto to finally exact their retribution. They could only feel happy for the Foot and their leader. Not only did they start their mission today, but their parents were also slaughtered in front of them. Naruto narrowed his eyes and said, "We're coming for you Tatsu and Shredder." Rewind to 3 years past. Situated on the northwest face of Mount Fuji in Japan, Akigahara, sometimes called the Suicide Forest or Sea of Trees, 9W Jukai, is a forest that thrives on 30 square kilometers, 12 square miles, of hardened lava that was left behind by the last significant eruption of Mount Fuji in 864 AD. Tourists and school groups frequently visit the western border of Akigahara, which is home to a number of ice-filled caverns. Because of the dense areas and the way the porous lava absorbs sound, Akigahara gives visitors a feeling of isolation. The Kreo ghosts of the dead are said to reside in the forest, according to Japanese folklore. Signs at the beginning of several trails encourage suicidal visitors to consider their loved ones and get in touch with a suicide prevention organization. Akigahara has gained international recognition as one of Japan's most popular suicide destinations in recent years. The 14-year-old twins, Naruto and Menma, are on a survival mission in Akigahara. They are seen brandishing their weapons in front of 5 Asian black bears, which typically do not attempt to attack people. However, during mating season, some of the bears become very aggressive, which the twins were aware of, and which is why they had traveled to Akigahara. Menma and Naruto exchange glances before turning to face the snarling bears that appear poised to tear them to pieces. On my count. 1, 2, 3. Now, cried Naruto as Menma moved behind him, facing the other bears. He reached into his pouch and took out 4 shuriken. As soon as Naruto gave the order, Menma threw his 4 into both bears' eyes, blinding them, and the other bears raced at Naruto and Menma in blind wrath. Both Menma and Naruto leap over the bear's slice and dice. According to Naruto, he narrows his eyes at the animal and lowers its paw. Most people would be terrified, but not Naruto, who rushes to the bear, but slips between it before it can tear him to pieces. He lifts his blade and practically slashes open the bear's insides as he moves between it. Naruto hears the sound of intestines being emptied out of the body, but he doesn't even bother to turn around. Naruto is struck in the back by the head of another bear. When the bear swiftly bites Naruto's arm after he is flung to the side, he screams in agony and uses his strong arm to sever the bear's head, killing it. "God damn it!" shouted Naruto as the bear fell on him. He then looked up and saw the animal charging at him. After squinting at the bear, Naruto reaches into his pockets and throws a smoke pellet at it, forming a smoke screen. The bear roared in rage as Naruto mocked him, "Let's see who's smarter, Yogi." The bear didn't realize that Naruto was stalking the creature, so he raised his double-bladed ninja sword staff spear and threw the blade. The bear is killed as the spear-like sword slashes through its throat and lungs. Naruto approaches his victim and takes his weapon from the lifeless creature. Menma is seen on top of the blinded bear after Naruto had killed the 3 bears. Ninja wire wraps around the bear's neck. Because Naruto had his Kusarigama logged into the bear's chest with the chain around its neck, the blind monster, despite the bear's extraordinary strength, is still unable to remove Menma off his back. "For a blinded creature, you really don't give up," Menma replied, grinning beneath his mask. The bear then thrashes around as Menma tightens the chain and wire, causing it to roar in agony. Menma then jumps off the bear, but while in midair he tightens the wire, causing the bear to slam against the grassy floor. Menma then slams onto the bear, cutting gashes at its head with his Kusarigama, almost removing it, but the force of the blow was so great that it damaged the brain's nerves. After staring at the other blind bear, Menma turns to see Naruto sitting on the sidelines. He then turns to face the snarling bear and says, "So, Naruto is done, I guess I better finish up." He then swings his Kusarigama around, thrusts the blade forward, places it right between the bear's eyes, and proceeds to yank the blades from the bear's skull. "Quick and deadly, huh?" Naruto asks his brother with a smile as his brother approached him. Naruto asked. "Yep, the quick and silent way," Menma says, nodding his head in agreement. Naruto nods in agreement and says, "That's the only real way to go when you're hunting, yak no." End of flashback. Following their flight's successful landing, Naruto and Menma set out to look for a covert base of operations in New York City. After 2 hours of scouting, they eventually located an abandoned warehouse in Manhattan. After that, they would unpack all of their gear. Menma looks at Naruto, who is holding a Kusarigama, and he has a serious expression. "We've located a base, but what do we do now?" Menma queried inquisitively. Naruto turns to face Menma after grabbing his double-bladed ninja sword staff spear and placing it on his back. He then puts on his mask and says, "Our next step is to get intel, and the only way for that is to enter the underworld." The 2 ninja siblings leave the warehouse and descend to the roof, and Menma smiles as he takes off his mask and says, "It's time to Manhattan to know what a whirlpool is truly capable of." As Naruto and Menma watch someone rob a liquor store, steal a car, shoot someone, and then flee with their wallet and shoes, they say, "Well, it shouldn't be too hard, we are in New York." He and his brother then go from raft to raft, in an attempt to find anyone who appears suspicious enough to know who the Foot Clan is. However, after hours of searching, they come across something odd. 4 mutant turtles engaged in combat with 6 thugs, each of whom has a purple dragon on their clothing. Naruto turns to face Menma, who nods his head before swinging his weapon and decapitating a thug, frightening the weird turtles and thugs. A red-masked turtle looks on in disbelief, saying, "What the shell?" The turtle screamed. Then, surprising the thugs and turtles, Naruto and Mema fell to the ground. Well, it seems like tonight is our night. Mema stated in a somber tone, leaving the turtles and thugs to wonder who these two individuals were. I'll say it's time to slice and dice, Naruto says, swirling a double-sided blade. We have some questions and you're going to answer them, Naruto said, grinning darkly before sprinting towards a purple dragon thug and stabbing a guy in the stomach before turning to face the other thugs and turtles. With a tone of authority, Naruto said. However, the thugs rushed toward him, saying, "Get them." Even though the tension is growing as thick as ice. I didn't know who these two were, but I didn't care, screamed the thugs who intended to exact revenge on the two masked ninjas who had just killed one of their own. As far as the turtles knew, they and the Foot Clan were the only ninjas in New York, so they could only stare and be perplexed. The orange-masked turtle turned to face their leader, who was wearing a blue mask, and asked, "Do you think these guys are with the Foot Clan?" Leo the turtle with the nunchuk inquired. "I don't think so, Meki," Leonardo says, squinting his eyes at the two ninja siblings. "I have to say no because these guys don't seem to be wearing any Foot Clan emblem," Leonardo said. In addition to being wary of these two enigmatic characters, Leonardo didn't like the prospect of facing two new enemies. After all, he and his brothers already had to contend with aliens, mutants, ninjas, and the purple dragons. Sure, the purple dragons weren't anything like the Foot or the Utrum, but Leonardo honestly didn't feel like fighting another foe, mainly because he and his siblings had just fought Karai. Then, turning to Michelangelo, Raphael said, "Why don't you ask them?" Despite his reputation for being impulsive, Raphael didn't like the idea of just barging in without warning, because he had done that before, when these two were unknown, and he wasn't sure what they were capable of. The last thing the enraged turtle wanted was to have his shell destroyed. Michelangelo is shocked as he turns to face Raphael, saying, "No way, dude. I'd rather not lose my head." Michelangelo declared that he would prefer not to recklessly charge at the two masked ninjas, because it was not only a horrible idea, but also foolish and something that a ninja would never do. The four turtles watch as Mema falls to the ground, and the thug behind him strikes the thug in front of him with a metal pipe. Mema then kicks the thug behind him with both feet, and if he throws a vicious left punch, the turtles and the other purple dragons hear the sound of bone breaking. The other thug then grabs Mema by the neck and throws him to the ground, whereupon he quickly gets up and avoids the slashes from the pipe. Mema then slashes at the man's ribs, causing him to scream in agony before Mema kicks him in the chest. The man yelled angrily. "TSK, you can try," says Mema, narrowing his ocean blue eyes. Mema, the young shinobi, dodges the small blade because it is inside the red-haired teen's personal space. He expertly wraps his chain around the man's wrist, causing him to scream in agony as his hand breaks. The young Redeed then jams the blade of his kusarigama into the thug's skull. "You were saying?" Mema says, pulling out the blade without even considering the blood that spills out of the naudito. They're now back to back, glaring at the three remaining purple dragons. "Okay, this is weird. I'm not too surprised about these gangbangers because New York is known for having them, but what really baffles me is the giant turtles. After these fools, Naruto and I will have to deal with these turtles, ugh," Mema thought. Then, looking at his twin brother with the blonde hair, Mema asks, "Are you ready?" Mema, who twirls his kusarigama, questioned. "I'm always ready, so now there's only 3 left," Mema said, as if he might have seen a gleam in his brother's purple eyes. Naruto said. After that, Mema grinned at the irate correction. "There's 3 dead corpses." "Why are you so small?" a gang member yelled as he ran at the two with a metal bat. Mema then swung his kusarigama around and struck the thug, who screamed in agony, because his eye had been cut to pieces. Mema then wrapped a chain around his opponent's hand and yanked it in his direction. Mema then viciously kneed the man in the face, breaking his nose as the Redeed's knee struck his brother, and threw the goon at the other 2 thugs. When the 2 thugs hit the hard ground, they observed Naruto crouching and Mema standing above his brother, both of them gazing at the 3 thugs. The twins and the thugs then glare at one another, saying, "Slice and dice," Mema yelled, then squatted down and leaped off Naruto's back like he was being thrown from a springboard. He then grabbed a thug by the head and drove his knee into their face, breaking their nose entirely. One of the gang members looks in horror and anger, blinded by anger, and charges at Naruto with bloody murder, ready to carve in the blonde-haired Japanese teen with his pocket knife. Before he can even finish his retaliation, he coughs up blood and looks down to see Naruto's blade pierce through his own chest. Why you are by bit bitches, son?" The man lifts his hand to stab Naruto, but his eyes are left open in amazement. He then slowly glances down and notices Mema's own blade embedded in his neck. Both siblings then took their weapons from the now dead body. Snarls the purple dragon, painting his teeth with his very own blood. When the two turned to face the last thug with a 9mm pistol, Naruto threw a kunai into the barrel. The man tried to shoot at them, but the gun went off, wounding his hand. The man clutched his hand in agony, and Naruto rushed over to swiftly and mercilessly decapitate him. The twins then turned to face the turtles. The devil or you people, yelled Michelangelo, staring at the two ninjas who has his nunchucks out swirling them. Michelangelo also had feelings this isn't going to be like fighting against Fishface or someone like Dog Pound. The last thing him and his brothers wanted was another Karate guy. This so not fair. When Michelangelo Donatello's purple masked turtle slapped his brother on the back of the head, Michelangelo flung his head back at his brilliant brother, saying, "That hurt, dude." "I thought we and the Foot were the only ninjas in New York." Michelangelo rubbed the back of his head and exclaimed. "Well, perhaps it did. Perhaps I shouldn't yell at the guys who just killed those purple dragon goons the next time." "This isn't the time to act foolish," Donatello screamed, looking at his brother, who can be a true idiot at times. In an attempt to avoid being reprimanded by his brother leader, Leonardo glares at Michelangelo and says, "Donnie is right, Mikey. You saw them, didn't you? They killed them mercilessly." Leonardo, in the role as the voice of reason, reprimanded him. "But killing members of the Purple Dragons isn't anything too seriously. I mean, one of us can easily take one of these guys on our own." Raphael simply shrugged his shoulders, indicating that he didn't see anything particularly noteworthy about taking down members of the Purple Dragons. "That is true, but did you see how they used their weapons and killed those guys?" Leonardo couldn't help but agree with his irate sibling. Leonardo turned to face Raphael and said, "They were trained to use those weapons and how to kill." The Sai-wielding turtle nodded his head and squinted at his brother. Stated Leonardo. He then turned towards Naruto and Menma with a piercing glare. "Who are you two?" Leonardo asked, being extremely careful not to come across as demanding. Each of the four turtles is 5 feet 5 inches tall, and both Menma and Naruto gaze at them, taking in their appearance. Leonardo's eyes are blue, and he wears a blue mask. Raphael's eyes are green, and his skin tone is dark green, with a red mask. Donatello's eyes are purple, and he wears a purple mask. And Michelangelo's eyes are yellow, with a bright grass green skin tone and protective shin guards over the wrapping bandages. Each turkey has its own weapon holder, and a small pouch with shuriken, kunai, grappling hook, and smoke bombs attached to it. The two were perplexed by what they were seeing, but the fact that the turtles had not yet attacked them suggested that they were either extremely smart or cautious around them. Naruto then reaches into his pocket, making the turtles narrow their eyes suspiciously at the ninja with the sword. He then throws a black round sphere towards the ground, and as it hits the hard concrete, a massive cloud of smoke envelops the two Uzumaki twins. "Shit. What a smoke bomb," Raphael complained. However, Donatello let go of his mouth and rubbed the back of his head after the smoke screen disappeared, and he turned to face Leonardo. "So, what do we do now, Leo?" Donatello said, "They're gone and probably hide in the shadows like us." Then Leonardo turned to Donatello and said, "Did you attach a turtle tracer to them, Donnie?" Leonardo asked. Donatello sighed and shook his head, saying, "I'm afraid not. You never know where they could be," Donatello said. "So what now, bro?" Michelangelo turned to face Leonardo. "Should we return to our lair or remain on the lookout?" Michelangelo was curious and genuinely wanted to return to his He-Man comic book when he was posed this question. The three brothers groaned in disapproval when Leonardo said, "Seeing as there's no Krong, Foot, or a new mutant around, then let's head home." After a 2-hour of rooftop training, Michelangelo wanted to read some comic books, Donatello wanted to experiment with his turtle tracer, and a few other of his experiments the genius turtle has, and Raphael wanted to do some of his own personal training, and check in on the health of his pet turtle Spike. Menma and Rudo, who were on a building hiding in the shadows and narrowing their eyes suspiciously, were watching the turtles as they hurried away from the scene to practice on the rooftops. Menma then turned to Naruto and asked, "So what do you?" Menma inquired. After that, Naruto runs his hand over his chin and says, "It's clear that those turtles are clearly trained." However, beneath his mask, his violet eyes narrow in suspicion. In all honesty, Naruto had thought that the Foot Clan was the only ninjas in New York, but it's clear that's not the case. "Do you believe that they belong to the Foot Clan?" Menma said, "I mean, who knows what they do in their free time," but he really didn't want to consider what the sinister and deranged Foot Clan did in their spare time. Menma observes as Naruto gives a negative headshake, saying, "No, I don't think so. They would definitely be wearing the Foot Clan and would attempt to attack if they were, but that isn't the case," Naruto said. "If that's the case, then who the hell trained them even though we didn't fight them? I doubt they are by any means weak," Menma says, narrowing his eyes as he watches the streets of New York pass by with not a care in the world. He then watches as police cars and ambulances pick up each of the dead corpses that he and his brother literally had. Menma said, "Not only that, but we know who their sensei might be or how skilled they are, but what I'm really curious about is what else this city has," the blonde shinobi says, nodding his head in agreement and letting out a sigh. Naruto said, "Do you think there are more of those turtle creatures?" Menma asks, raising an eyebrow. Menma asks out of curiosity. He observes his sibling negatively shaking his head, saying, "No, more of those turtles. Yes, there are more odd creatures in this metropolis, but who knows what else might exist," Naruto said. "So, do you believe that unusual things are happening in New York?" Menma asked, raising an eyebrow in amazement and mistrust. "I mean, those turtles and the Foot Clan are here, so who knows what else might be here," Naruto shrugged his shoulders. However, none of those things should be allowed to divert us from our objective, Naruto said. Right, whoever we have to go against they'll end up as another corpse. Menma shakes his head in agreement, saying that even if New York had harbored some other weird mutant, it wouldn't have stopped them from pursuing their objective of vengeance. No, there will not this gang, turtles, or something else will stand in our way for our vengeance. Nothing will stand in our way for our vengeance. We will avenge our parents by killing Tatsu and Shredder, Naruto said, nodding in agreement with his brother. He and Menma won't hesitate to end that threat that dares stand in their way. They may not be prepared for whatever the city had under wraps, but they will eliminate that obstacle. So what do we do now? Keep searching or should we head back? Menma inquired inquisitively after agreeing with his brother and glancing down at a group of teens. Then, with a sigh, Naruto stated, "Hey, I'm tired, and we need rest. We'll continue our search in the morning, plus we still need to get a feel around here. So, let's go home." He would prefer to keep searching, but his body is exhausted from the travel. Menma said, "Right." The two siblings then started to hoop to the rooftop to return to their hiding place, but Menma couldn't help but agree with Naruto that he was also feeling quite exhausted from the flight. "We also have to buy food and other utilities for our new home," Menma said, smiling beneath his mask. He and Naruto hadn't felt Japan with only the cloth less on them, but since they were only 16 years old, getting through some of the things would be difficult, but the two brothers would overcome it. He simply knew that. After all, giving up wasn't something an Uzumaki simply didn't do, and to the young Uzumaki siblings, give up simply wasn't in their vocabulary. While both want to continue looking for Foot Clan clues, they need their new lair to be livable, so for the time being, setting up their home is their top priority. True, we'll need to get our base set up and up to living conditions. We can't just live in a warehouse filled with cobwebs, insects, and rats, Naruto said. However, when they realized they would need to go shopping for cooking materials and furniture, both siblings let out a moan. Location. Sewers in New York. Normally, a sewer wouldn't appear to be a suitable location to live, but this isn't the case, because the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles call this site home. Splinter, who was once known as Hamato Yashi, is the person within the living who is seen consuming green tea. Master Splinter is a 6'2" dark gray mutant rat with long black whiskers and autumn-colored eyes. He has gray bandages wrapped around his wrist, and Inspired Art Master is dressed in a maroon kimono. The sound of his children's footfall causes Master Splinter's ears to perk up. "Ah, back so soon from your scouting?" he asked, his eyes closed as he sipped his soothing tea. The turtles all shook their heads unfavorably. Michelangelo laughed uneasily. Donatello rubbed the back of his neck while wearing an uncertain expression. Raphael crossed his arms and looked to the other side, and Leonardo sighed indecisively. Leonardo explained, "Not quite, Sensei. Something happened when we were on our daily routine." The four turtles would then kneel to their master in respect. With a confused expression, Master Splinter opened his eyes and turned to face the turtles. "How so, my sons?" he said, inquisitive as to what was causing his adoptive turtle students' children such anxiety. Well, Sensei, we did ran into some trouble." Leonardo rubs his head nervously, uncertain of the reaction his father or Sensei will have. "Trouble? What kind of trouble? Was it the Foot Krong, or a new mutant?" Master Splinter asked, running his clawed fingers across his furry face before raising an eyebrow at Leonardo. "We've seen members of the Purple Dragon trying to break in the back door of a jewelry store, but before we can even fight them these two guys stepped in and killed them," Donatello said, as he observed the former humans stare in bewilderment and curiosity, as each turtle gave a negative shake of its head. Master Splinter narrowed his eyes in suspicion and caution as Raphael stated, "Not only that, Sensei, but they too use a kusarigama and a double-sided sword, and they were trained in Inspired Art just like us." Master Splinter asks, "Were these two ninjas with the foot?" "No, they didn't have the foot emblem on them anywhere. And they were wearing a mask, but did you know anyone who used such weapons?" Donatello inquired, and each of them gave a negative shake of the head. Master Splinter, who is sipping his tea, says, "No, can't say I have, Donatello, but it appears we have an unknown factor. We don't know who these masked ninjas are or their identity, and we also don't know their goal, but seeing as they don't have the foot emblem on their person, I believe it is safe to say they are not with the Foot Clan, but we are also unaware of their motives." "Oh, dude, this is so confusing. I mean, I thought we and Foot were the only ninjas within the Big Apple. I mean, who knows who they are?" Michelangelo then clutches the side of his head in a terrified expression. Raphael after call said, "As loud and annoying Mikey is, he's right, all we know these two could have been hired by the Shredder." He and his brothers had never expected Chris Bradford and Xavier Montes to transform into Dog Pound and Fishface, but that is exactly what happened. In addition, they had to deal with numerous other mutants. Then, turning to face Raphael, Master Splinter said, "Or they could simply have their own agendas. I believe it is too early to dodge what their true motives are, my son. Don't you?" When he realizes that his heated fury has overcome him, Raphael bows and sighs, but this is not the first time it has happened. Raphael, who need direction from their sensei after he has already led them to the better options, said, "Right, Sensei, I'm sorry. But what do we do about them?" Master Splinter strokes his whiskers as he sings. Well, I believe you must first analysis the situation you are in, but you must still be cautious about these two mysterious figures, and you do not know what their true intentions are. An unknown enemy could bring an unknown obstacle. Meditate on this could help clear your mind, but the best choice to do in this type of situation is to be cautious and prepare these two new opponents. Who knows, they could be an enemy or they could be an ally. Remember my turtles, the future is as unclear as the past, instructed Master Splinter. Leonardo said, "Hi L-sensei," and nodded to their rodent master. "Now my sons, who would like pizza?" exclaims Master Splinter, who places a pizza box on the dining table. He opens the box to reveal that the pizza contains hamburger, bacon, sausage, pepperoni, and mushrooms. He then gives his kids a happy smile. "Me?" Michelangelo screamed as his mouth started to moisten when he gazed at the yummy pizza box. "Like hell," cried Raphael as he threw Michelangelo to the ground. Donatello and Leonardo then leaped on top of the other turtles, preventing Michelangelo from finishing the pizza box as he had done numerous times in the past, which Master Splinter could only observe with laughter. Time skip. The following day. Mema and Naruto are seen strolling around the city of New York. Naruto is dressed in a dark short-sleeved blue jacket, faded black ripped jeans, black shoes with orange laces, and a black shirt with an image of a crow with a third eye on top. Mema is dressed in a black hull shirt, black faded jeans, black fitted jeans, black and purple tennis shoes, and a purple bandana wrapped around his forehead. Mema moaned as he ran his hand through his hair. "Ugh, this sucks, yak no." And Naruto both sighed as they came to a halt in the center of a crowded crowd. Naruto said, "Agreed. This is harder than we thought." As he and his brother gazed at the red-haired and ravenette woman, Mema muttered under his breath, "Being new sucks." Then, feeling as though someone had bumped into him, he turned to see a teenage girl on the floor and held out his hand, saying, "You alright, and sorry about that." With a shrug of her shoulders, the red-haired youngster grins at the two and says, "I apologize. I should have been looking where I was going." With a smile on her face and a humorous tone in her voice, the ravenette added, "Correction, it's both of your thoughts. I mean really stopping in a crowded sidewalk. By the way, I'm Irma and this is April." Irma pointed to her friend with the red hair. April comes across as a bashful, youthful 16-year-old. She has right-sided curved bangs and shoulder-length ginger hair that looks to be pulled back into a little ponytail. She wears a yellow headband as well. April is dressed in an elbow-length black blouse, a yellow and white sports shirt with the number 5 printed on it, blue denim shorts, black leggings, brown wristbands or bandages, black low-heeled boots, and white high socks with 2 blue stripes. April's shorts have a patch on the right back pocket, although you might not notice it. The patch was inspired by the famous Luxo Jr. from Pixar. Bull. A circular area of gold with a red star in the center and a blue ring around it. Additionally, there seem to be keys that are thought to be house keys. April has blue eyes, long lashes, and freckles. She is really thin. Irma, who wears Gothic-inspired attire, is next to her. She has a single red hairpin on the right side of her head, and her short black hair with purple strands. Irma wears spectacles, purple nail paint, and lipstick. She has a black tank top with a white broken glass logo, a pink tank top underneath that has red stripes, a blue and black checkered skirt, big boots that reach her calves, high black socks, and red oval-shaped glasses. She has 3 red hexagonal bracelets on one wrist and 3 on the other. April is a little taller than her. April was asked, "So, you two new here?" Which made them both sigh. With a drop of perspiration falling on his head, Naruto questioned, "Is it that obvious?" April responded, "Yeah, pretty much. What are you two looking for?" As both females nodded their heads. "I guess somewhere that sells a TV and electronics in general." "Do either of you two know where we can buy one?" replied Naruto. April said, "Yo, we do. We can take you if you like." Both Menma and Naruto nodded their heads quickly, which made April and Irma laugh at the two brothers' antics, because they resembled the turtles she is acquainted with. Then she smiles at the two and says, "Okay, follow us." April smiled. April blushed in shame after Irma remarked, "Just don't run into someone this time." The two siblings laughed, and she then walked quickly with her present companion and 2 new pals in tow. Where? Not sure. A Caucasian man wearing a white button-down shirt, black dress jacket, black dress pants, and black shoes. He also has his black hair slicked back, black shades, and brown eyes. "Tell me how goes our little experiment." The man pointed to another man wearing a black suit. Bishop grinned when the man in the suit stated to his superior officer, "Our experiment is progressing quite well, Bishop. I say it's finally ready to deploy for missions. Soon I will have the DNA or those turtles and those aliens," Bishop said with a gloomy expression. He then turned to face the screen and saw a black person shooting at different drones.